What's up, everybody? Kyle at Arts Records and Tapes here. Happy New Year. It's 2025 officially. Things have been really busy around here. I haven't been able to film or edit or make a video in well over a month. Things get busy with the holidays, especially with two young kids. And we've been sick on and off and traveling and all that. So I thought I would jump on here quick and participate in my first official vinyl community vinyl tag. I did the summer vinyl tag that Dylan at Noble Records had started in the summer as kind of an introduction to myself and my channel. But this is the vinyl tag 2025, which the vinyl community does every year to commemorate the last year of collecting and just to get to know new people like myself. And this one was started by Edwin at Pretty Green Vinyl Guy. So thank you. Your questions were very fun to answer and to pull records for. So let's just get into it. The first question here is, I've got some notes. The best purchase of 2024, new or old. So that would have to be this self-titled, their first technically self-titled record, Fleetwood Mac. And this one is typically called Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. This is the band's first album, back when they were a British blues band, fronted by a man named Peter Green, who is, some say, maybe the best guitarist to ever come out of England. And he was damn good. And this is a second press, I believe. I found this at an antique shop for $6. It is not worth $6. It's worth a bit more than that. I've never seen an original like this, and the originals have this like either a blue or a pink frame around it. See someone's name's written here. This is definitely a VG copy, but the disc is pretty hardy, not quite 180, and it plays great. I honestly say it plays like VG Plus, so really happy with this one. I have a reissue up here somewhere. And that one sounds good too, but to have an OG of one of my favorite bands' first albums is great. Second question is 50 years later, best album from. The original question was 1974, but I'm pretty sure Edwin meant 1975. That's how the previous vinyl tags have gone. So I did just pick out an album from 1975. And that is another Fleetwood Mac record. Their other self-titled album, Fleetwood Mac, from 1975. And this is the first record featuring Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks when they kind of crossed over into the pop rock realm. What's got one of the best songs, in my opinion, ever written, Landslide. Just the precursor to Rumors, the gargantuan album that took over everything and still sells like crazy. But great album. If you haven't heard it, which is insane to think, check it out. Third question. An album that defines a genre. So for this one, I picked an album that I guess is technically the first. It was the album that coined the genre's name, but this type of music had been around, just called other things for many, many centuries, in the classical realm especially. But this is Brian Eno's Ambient One, Music for Airports. This record is the start of the ambient genre, at least the modern one, and I'm a huge fan of that genre, and a lot of the modern ambient music being made now. So this kind of kickstarted that, and I could open it up and read the Ambient Music Manifesto that's on the sleeve. You should check it out. You can look it up online. But instead, I'll just share a funny anecdote. This album is called Music for Airports. And one time I was walking through the Philadelphia airport, and they were blaring Tom Petty's Free Falling. I just thought to myself, that is wildly inappropriate. So I would have much rather have heard Tutu or any of the other tracks on music for airports. Fourth question. So I had trouble with this one. Best band from your home country. I'm in the U.S., Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm originally from Wisconsin. I was trying to think of how I could make it local, either here in Minneapolis or to Wisconsin, and I just couldn't. I think of a lot of amazing artists that have come out of the U.S. When I think of bands, all of the first bands that come to mind are British. So I did my best, and I'm really just showing this to show off that I finally got a Beach Boys Pet Sounds mono. It is a 1980 reissue, but I've always wanted one, and I got it. And I mean, the Beach Boys are one of the best bands to come out of the US. One of them. So there you go. Number 5, an artist you dearly miss. So most, I feel, would interpret this as someone who's passed away, no longer makes music, no longer capable of making music. But I'm going to change this up a bit and show this record. This is Blonde by Frank Ocean. And Frank Ocean is an artist I dearly miss. I know. He's, since this album has released a handful of singles and such, but I would really love another full length from this guy. Amazing artist. Enough said. I mean, if you haven't heard this, you're crazy. You should check it out, along with Channel Orange, his first full length, and the mixtapes that predate that album. Fabulous. One of the best artists of our time. I don't know what's going on. He started a luxury brand. Cool, but I'd love to hear some more Frank Ocean. Question number 6. Best live album in your collection. I don't have a lot of live albums. It's just not something I have. But I thought about it, and I think this is probably the best one I can show, and that's Keith Jarrett, The Cologne Concert. It's a classic Keith Jarrett record, probably one of my favorite Keith Jarrett records. If you don't know it, look it up. The story behind it's pretty cool. Something, if I remember correctly, it was at a college in Cologne, Germany, and a student was a big fan of his and did her best to get him there. And then once she got him there, realized their piano was out of tune, or they didn't have a piano or something like that. And so they scrambled and rented this piano, and it was out of tune. And you can hear that, but he made it work in the Keith Jarrett way, and just improvised this beautiful piece of music. And this is the Newberry Comics exclusive clear vinyl, which is pretty cool to have. All right, question number 7. Your partner just dumped you. What album are you putting on? I'm kind of a sad sap. I love a sad song and a sad album. For this one, I picked an album that's really on the nose, and that's the Mountain Goats' Get Lonely. This is the only Mountain Goats album I have. I do like the Mountain Goats. Have to be in the right mood for it. But this album in particular, you also have to be in the right mood for. But as just a statement, it's just a complete breakup album from start to finish. And what he was feeling, and it's literal in the John Darnielle fashion. Very on the nose. Really captures the feeling of going through a breakup well. And I remember when I first heard it, what really got me was how closely mic'd everything was. It's a pretty stripped down record, and so the guitar and the piano and the singing is just very close and intimate. And I love that. I love how it was recorded that way. Mountain Goats Get Lonely. Number 8, best sounding drums on an album. I'm probably gonna get some shit for this one, but nonetheless, I'm picking Blink-182 Neighborhoods. And I'm sorry, but Blink-182 is a pretty important band for me. I have noticed in the VC that the demographic is, I'm kind of in the middle. I'll leave it at that. And so this band for me was the band that got me into music at 12 years old. And it made me pick up a guitar and want to keep playing. And they've had some great songs over the years. So I'm not ashamed. And this album in particular came out of their first breakup hiatus. And it was recorded all separately. That's why it's called Neighborhoods. So all like 3 of members, different neighborhoods. They all recorded it in their own studios. And I picked it because Travis Barker, the drummer, really changed that band when he joined for their 3rd full length and their breakout with, all the small things and What's My Age Again, Enema of the State. That was the first record he was on, and he really upped their sound because he's an amazing drummer. And he knows how to record drums, or whoever he hires knows how to record drums, and the drums sound really great on this album. So that's Blink-182, Neighborhoods. Favorite artist who is a member of 2 or more bands. There's another answer that I don't think you'll see a lot in the vinyl community, and that is Matt Pryor. For those of you who do know, before I show the albums, kudos. Matt Pryor is a member of the Get Up Kids and the New Amsterdams. And the Get Up Kids are still a band, the New Amsterdams not so much. The Get Up Kids were his first band. They were one of emo's second wave bands from Kansas. And this is their 3rd album, On a Wire. Not liked by a lot of fans. They really took a pivot on this one, but it is one of my favorites. And the New Amsterdams is Matt Pryor's. It was his solo project to start, and then it kind of morphed into a band, a 4-piece band. And this is one of their records that was recently reissued on vinyl. So great songwriter, great bands. Check those albums out. Number 10, Beatles or Stones? Well, if I have to pick, I'm going to go with the Beatles. Only because I listen to the Beatles more than I do the Stones. I own more of their records. I just think in terms of the zeitgeist, the Beatles take the cake, but could be wrong. The Stones are still a band, so who knows? Why do I have to pick? I don't want to pick. All right, number 11. You found a bag of weed. What are you going to listen to, assuming you smoke it? I don't partake anymore. With 2 kids, I don't get much sleep as it is, so substances besides caffeine don't really do anything for me these days. But if I had the time, an evening all to myself, and I had some weed, and I smoked it, I would probably put on this record, Chuck Johnson, Balsams, from 2017. I stumbled across this record doing what I love to do, which I don't have a lot of time to do anymore, and that is flipping through all of the new releases on Apple Music. Every Friday, I would go on and look at all the new releases and download what I thought was interesting and listen and read about it and learn about all these new artists. I do that through records now, a lot of older music, which I didn't do before. So that's kind of scratching that itch for me. But this is one of those records that I just randomly stumbled across and it caught my attention. Or maybe I saw a review of it, one of the two. But it's beautiful. An ambient record, mostly bass and pedal steel guitar. That's it. And it's just droney and lovely. And I'm not one to... I'm kind of an anxious person, so I have to be somewhat careful in partaking. So this would be a nice way to spend an evening with some weed. That's Chuck Johnson, Balsams. Okay, number 12, an album you still... How's that worded? Number 12, an album from the 80s, the 1980s, that you still listen to. So the key word there for me is still. Assuming that Edwin, who wrote these questions, is old enough to have come up in the 80s and have been aware of what he was listening to. I was born in the 80s, and so I wasn't really aware of what I was listening to. 87. So I was 3 when that decade ended. What are you listening to when you're 3? I have a 3-year-old now, and he loves Casper Baby Pants and Mariah Carey randomly, Herb Alpert for some reason. We listen to a lot of that. Rafi, and ABC songs. I was probably listening to the same. So I interpret that question to mean, like, what do you still listen to from your coming of age in music, which people say is typically between the ages of 13 and 20 something. So for me, that was the early aughts. And I picked a record that came out in 21 years ago now, in 2004, by a band called Death Cab for Cutie, Transatlanticism. So that is the record I go back to, assuming that's what this question means. But, and one of my all-time favorite albums, top 5 at least. If I have to answer the question correctly, and I'm going to get some shit for this too, I'm going to say George Winston, Autumn, piano solos from 1983. Yeah. On the Windham Hill label, which I'll talk about later. Number 13, an artist whose political stance has soured you. Well, I couldn't think of an artist whose political stance has soured me. I mean, politics is worldview, so I'm gonna go with someone who I loved, who I probably have, out of anyone's catalog, have the most records of, who I was obsessively collecting CDs. When I stopped collecting CDs for other artists, I would collect his CDs. And he soured me because, well, some of the things he's said publicly and some of the things he's done. And so I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with my collection yet. I haven't really listened to it since he soured me. But that is Mark Kozelek, this man right here, of the Red House Painters, famously in Sun Kill Moon. This is one of his live solo records. And all of his records, he has his own label called El Verde, and all of the vinyl is released by Vinyl Films, which is Cameron Crowe's offshoot, and they got to know each other from his work in Almost Famous. He did some acting. Again, he is like one of my favorite songwriters, but I just haven't been able to. He did some awful things. So yeah, that's that one. Number 14, show a favorite record label. Okay, so this one, I've seen people show the actual label itself, or just a record label, some records from a catalog of a label that they like. So I'm going to go with the latter, and that is Windham Hill. That's right. Windham Hill Records. Started by this man, William Ackerman, and George Winston, the piano player. Autumn is on probably one of the most famous Windham Hill artists, along with Mr. Michael Hedges, who was on the label for a time. Brilliant guitar player. And then, so that's William Ackerman. He's also a guitar player, started the label. And then Liz Story, solo piano as well. She had a few records on Windham Hill. They were one of the pioneering new age record labels. They put out a lot, mostly instrumental music, some jazz. People say that it was the music played in co-ops in the 80s and 90s. I believe Devendra Banhart actually did like a mock, one of his latest records, like it looked like a Windham Hill record because all of the covers and the artwork look very similar. They've usually got a nature-y picture and similar text. So yeah, William Ackerman, founder of Windham Hill Records. I should have worn my Windham Hill t-shirt. Great label. Not a lot has been written about it. There's a fan club website online, but I think someone should do a documentary, especially now George Winston just passed last year, and folks are getting old, so it'd be cool to see the story of the label and how it came together is cool, and there are so many artists involved. It'd be cool to see something like that. Number 15, run of 3 great singles. So for this one, I went with The Wallflowers, Bringing Down the Horse. Amazing album. The 3 singles, you all know, One Headlight, 6th Avenue Heartache, and 3 Melenas. If you don't know, Jakob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son, they released this album to the public without noting that he was Bob Dylan's son or who he was, and it was successful, and then they revealed it, which I think is fabulous. The music does speak for itself, and I think that's what they wanted to do. Incredible. And all the songs are so good on this record. Number 16, a record store day purchase that you actually consistently listen to. I don't do record store day all that much. Don't like the hubbub and the crowds. But I think it was the first record store day, 2012 or 13. I had a buddy who was out, and we both have a mutual love for this band. Shout out to you, Tyler. Thank you for this. And he picked this up for me. And that is Jimmy Eat World, Bleed American. I mean, amazing album. Incredible. And this one comes on red and blue vinyl. It was a reissue for the first time in a really long time, or was it the first vinyl release? Limited to 2,000 copies, very rare. But this one, I mean, besides that, this album, my God, so good. Number 17. Okay, so this one I had a lot of trouble with. You can be reincarnated as any artist dead or alive. Who is it going to be? Okay, so I don't know. I didn't really want to answer this question because I've worked with artists. I've been around the music industry. I know kind of what it's like. And I don't know, a lot of the artists I know they're good people, but they're not the happiest people. And I think it would just be a hard life to live, especially right now, given the way the industry is and the fact that it's really hard to make a living at it. But if I had to pick, I would probably pick the father of Jakob Dylan, Bob Dylan, Mr. Bob Dylan, because my God, he can write a song. It'd be amazing to write a song like he can. And he's still alive, such an amazing life. How many movies have been made about this man? The new one that just came out, which I want to see, I haven't seen yet. But man, I mean, and he's still making great music. The last record was fantastic. So if I had to be reincarnated and live a life, some people have said I'd make different choices, yada yada. But if I just had to live the life, there's been, of course, any life, but what a life that Bob Dylan's had. Number 18, the best 3 lines in a song. So for this one, I love it when a song just hits you, you hear a song and you just play it over and over again. It's rare. So the song I picked that last did that to me is off this album, Tom Paxton, Ain't That News. And the song is Hold On To Me, Babe, track 4, side A. And it's funny because it's the only... Tom Paxton was of that Greenwich Village scene that Dylan came up in, very political. And this album, it's a breakup song in the middle of songs about Vietnam and drinking too much. And it's just heart-wrenching. And the lines, it's 4 lines. It goes, there is something locked inside you, like a secret burning pain, in a prison where you would not let me go. I was sure we'd find an answer till I woke and found you gone. Now just what it is, I guess I'll never know. Whew. Great song, great album. Number 19, an album you never tire of. For this one, it's a classic. I can listen to this album any mood I'm in. It'll always perk me up, make me feel good, and that is Miles Davis' Kind of Blue, which is kind of funny because it's called Kind of Blue. But man, what a fabulous jazz record, a quintessential jazz record. If you're looking to get into jazz, I would start with this one, and then some John Coltrane, Love Supreme, some Bill Evans, Waltz for Debbie. But this one for me is an album that I never tire of. Last question is, share your favorite VC channel. Don't have one. I love them all, which is the political answer I see going around. But if I have to shout out anyone, I'm going to shout out my pal Tony at Two from the Trunk. I really like Tony's videos. They're very genuine, down to earth, and I found some really great recommendations from watching his stuff. So shout out to you, Tony. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you subscribe, I hope to be back soon with some digging videos. Just haven't had the time. Like I said, my wife and I decided to buy my in-laws' house. So we're in the process of moving next month in winter in Minnesota. So yeah, the opportunity arose and we had to take it. So we're going to get a bigger house, which is great. More room for records, right? No. So things will be hectic, but I hope to get back to that soon. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and like if you enjoyed this. I do a lot of point of view record hunting and flipping, and get on here and talk about a lot of the stuff that I find out thrifting, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I'm hoping to, in 2025, go to some more stores, maybe interview some shop owners, introduce the Twin Cities record store scene at large, and just get on here more and talk about some of my favorite music. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.